Afternoon. Good afternoon. I'm sure you can hear me now. It's a pleasant afternoon here in Barbados. It is, yes, it's raining a little bit, but the sun is peeping through. And I know we're going to have a great show today. Today, we're talking about a very, very serious topic. We're talking about a possible change in our sex education system here in the Caribbean. And there, I've just been getting so much information on my phone. People from different Caribbean islands, people are concerned, parents are concerned. Some educators are concerned about the possibilities of transgender education being taught within our schools throughout the Caribbean. We're hearing from Bahamas. Someone messaged me yesterday from the US Virgin Islands, from Trinidad. Here in Barbados is an uproar in Barbados where it's alleged that they've already started to create bathroom facilities to transgender children. I'm not sure of how true that is. I got information from a teacher who said it was verified. I have not seen it personally, but these are issues that are happening throughout the entire Caribbean region, and people are concerned. And whenever we hear that people are concerned about anything that's happening in the LGBTQ community, we're told, discrimination, human rights, and so on. These issues are brought up, and I really, really do believe that there should be no discrimination against anyone in the LGBT community. I believe that we should never be part of anything of the sort. There should be absolutely no discrimination against the LGBTQ community. And I believe that a lot of the parents who are speaking out are not saying that there should be any discrimination against an adult or a child who believe that they are gay, they're homosexual at all. But it is about the inclusion of that kind of lifestyle within the curriculum and the teaching of it in the curriculum of the schools. I mean, we're seeing where Africa itself is pushing back against any LGBTQ based curriculum in their schools. And I see people are coming in and today is an open mic, and I'm just going to allow people to speak. But before we do that, I just want to read a little article here and to give us some kind of context. And this is an article that's coming out of the US. And the title of it is When Students Change Gender Identity and Parents Don't Know. When students change gender identity and parents do not know. Educators are facing wrenching new tensions over whether they should tell parents when students socially transition at school. All right. And this is an article by Katie Baker. And she says Jessica Bradshaw found out that her 15-year-old identified as transgender at school after she glimpsed a homework assignment with an unfamiliar name scrawled at the top. When she asked about the name, the teenager acknowledged that, at his request, teachers and administrators at his high school in Southern California had for 6 months been letting him use the boys' bathroom and calling him by male pronouns. So this is a female that is being allowed to use the boys' bathroom and being called by male pronouns, and the parents were never told. He is 15. This girl is 15 years old and being identified as a boy with a boy's name. And no wonder the parents in the Caribbean are concerned. Mrs. Bradshaw was confused. Didn't the school need her permission, or at least need to tell her? It did not. A counselor later explained, because the student did not want his parents to know, district and state policies instructed the school to respect his wishes. There was never any word from anyone to let us know that on paper and in the classroom, our daughter was our son. Oh my goodness. The Bradshaws have been started to find themselves at odds with the school over their right to know about and to weigh in on such a major development in their child's life. And it is these kinds of issues why a lot of parents are concerned about their rights, parental rights. We're seeing that in the Child Protection Act that is they're trying to pass into law, where the parents have no rights. And here it is in a school in California, in Southern California, where the parent did not know that their child had chose a different sex and going to a girl going to the boys bathroom. Do you understand how dangerous that is? Well, I have in the studio here with me several persons, and I'm just going to add them as we go along. I'm seeing Woodley, I've seen Reverend Kwame, I'm seeing Natalie, Maisha, Julianne, Narissa, and Robert. Okay, and so I'm going to add Ambassador Kwame. I wonder if he's there. If you could open your mic and to give your views on this new sex education program. That they're seeking to. It appears to us who are looking on all the legislations that are being passed, that this is what they want to happen within our schools in Barbados and in the Caribbean region. Welcome, Reverend Kwame.
Greetings to you. Hopefully, I can be heard loud and clear. Yes.
Yes, I'm hearing you loud and clear, and it's so good to hear your voice.
Oh, the pleasure's mine. Absolutely. Of course, I bring greetings on behalf of my beautiful wife as well to you and to yours. We call you the Queen of Caribbean Talk, and that's certainly for very, very good reason. You
Thank
tend to
you.
broach the topics. You're most welcome. That most people are either unable or unwilling to broach because of the sensitive nature of it. And I want to preface my comment on today by way of agreeing with you that we are dealing with a number of issues here. We are dealing, on the one hand, with human rights, fundamental human rights, freedom of thought, freedom of expression, certainly the right to culture, the right to education. We are certainly the right to religion. We are dealing with a number of fundamental human rights. And so when we are dealing with fundamental human rights, we are at pains, of course, to be very careful when we are dealing with these issues. For instance, there is currently not a new phenomenon. I want to give a historical context, if I may.
Mhm.
Within ancient Sumeria, there would have been the worship of Inanna. And in the worship of Inanna, the gala, have you ever heard that term being used, bandied about in the West? I'm going to a gala. Well, when I explain what a gala is, I don't think anyone is going to want to receive invitations to a gala unless they have a particular persuasion. So the gala priests in worshiping Inanna, they would first of all be transvestite in their appearance as females. They would have gone through the procedure then, and this is BC times, of removing, of course, their phallus, and becoming eunuchs. And then they would go on to engage in what we call sacred prostitution. Their specific month of celebration for major festivals was actually in the month of June. And these gala priests are certainly in their worship of Inanna are what we call the precursors of what is referred today as the LGBTQ sexual, as it were, revolution movement. We see that in modern contemporary times, June is the month for LGBTQ, consistent with them. We see that while they don't adopt a religious framework, while it is a secular framework that they adopt, they certainly wish to exercise religious rights and religious requirements perhaps upon certain long-standing religions to adopt them or to recognize them or have them to participate. We certainly see within the context, again, giving it a historical and contextual framework, that there is a sense of pride and there are parades associated with what they do, very, very consistent with ancient times. I make the point that there's nothing new under the sun. Now,
Mm-hmm.
if you are an Inanna priest or priestess and you want to participate in that, that's your fundamental human right, so to do. You can do that if you choose. The question, however, is when dealing with minors and dealing with minors who don't belong to you, dealing with minors who belong to religions, who belong to cultures, who belong to ethnicities that perhaps may have a heterosexual orientations, whose holy books, holy writ, holy scripture in the case of the Quran, in the case of the Bible, both so-called Old and New Testament, the Tanakh and the New Testament, that are at odds, that are at variance with that. And then you say that my right to freedom of choice, freedom of gender, freedom of religion, freedom of association trumps your right to freedom of religion, freedom of thought, freedom of expression. And so we are now encroaching upon your rights as a heterosexual community and group in order to advance the rights of others. And in a fair world, in an egalitarian world, we should be able to say, if I am LGBTQ oriented, I will have communities, schools, and establishments that are in support of my lifestyle, my religion, my thought, my culture, my expression, while at the same time allowing others to exercise their rights to opt out and say, this is not for me, this is not for mine. If my child grows up, becomes a man or woman, and decides to pursue that lifestyle on his or her own, that would be a matter for them to choose at adulthood. But to engage in behavior, to be engage in propaganda, and worse, to engage in irreversible procedures,
Mm-hmm.
which when a child is young, they have all kinds of fads, they have all kinds of beliefs which they outgrow. Some of the things that I wore as a teenager, I won't be caught dead wearing that now. But when you engage in a procedure that is irreversible, because at the time your hormones were raging, or maybe you came into contact with atrazine, which is a chemical that induces certain types of homosexual tendencies and behavior. It's in the literature, it's beyond argument, it's beyond debate, or you've been propagandized to take on a particular position. If and when you change your mind, and many of them do later on as an adult, it will be too late then. And many of them, the untold truth, commit suicide and engage in all kinds of self harming behavior. So
Mm-hmm.
far from a benign issue of simply recognizing the rights of a marginalized minority, this deals with fundamental human rights and deals with irreversible medical procedures, many of them experimental, all of them irreversible, and the long-standing consequences and effects of these not having been studied properly should not be rushed into by any government or any institution, regardless as to where you stand in terms of the position. And
Position.
my stance respects all. And I want to thank you for allowing me that introductory sharing. There's much more I can share, but
Yes.
respectful of time, I think I can
Yes.
land
And
it there for now.
others want to share, but the way I love the way you started off by giving us the historical context. And I wanted to stick around because you started to talk about some hormonal imbalances and probably stuff in the food and so on. And I wanted to stick around, but I also have with me in the studio Tam. Hi, Tom. I don't know where you're calling from. That was Reverend Kwame from Trinidad. Where are you from, Tom? Can you open your microphone and give us your view on the introduction of this new sex education program, this proposal of it within our educational curriculum here in the Caribbean? Tom, are you there? Hi, Tam. Not hearing Tam. Okay, Mr. Dean Squires. Mr. Squires, are you on? Squires, can you just turn on your microphone? And I want to get your views on what the introduction of this new this new proposed sex education curriculum that is within the schools in North America. And because of our association and because of the teaching, we're connected to that, right? So I want to the line is open for people to come in to share their thoughts. Are you hearing me, Dean?
Yes, I'm hearing you. Are you hearing me?
Yes, I'm hearing you now. What a good afternoon, and I can tell you're calling in from Barbados. What are your
Yes, correct.
thoughts about these seemingly, because they have not, and most of the curriculum they have not changed as yet, but we could feel the pressure. We could literally feel this pressure that is bearing down on us as a region. What are your thoughts about that, Dee?
Well, it's a very, very serious matter. Um, and I'm seeing it from this way. In the, I don't know how to describe it, but in the secular arena, when guys are looking to what we would call groom young girls, you usually introduce them to sexual topics and get them talking and focusing on sex with the hope, well, not with the hope, but they would have seen how it works. Because once you start to dabble there from an early age, usually what was a conversation then moves on into thoughts and repeated thoughts, which then swiftly move into action. So if that's just a one-off, targeting of one person here or there, I dread to see what will happen now if we begin to do that on a more mass scale, where you open up your education systems to such curriculum even at an early age. So I believe it's a very, very serious matter, and one that I'm not sure if we are really ready to deal with the result or the fruit from sowing such seeds. So that's my take on it. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you so much. Appreciate your comment, Dean. I'm going to put you back in the green room so that we can talk with. I see Charmaine has come on, and her devices are on. There are people in the studio, but their devices are actually not on. They're not connected. So it's important that you connect your devices. All right. It's important. So connect your devices and then we can have the conversation. I'm actually going to ask Mrs. Squires and also Reverend Kwame, if they could, just because the studio is full and there are people that are trying to come on at this time, if you could just step out a bit and then and come back in. I want to hear from you guys again. At least I know that your technicals are working. All right. So who is with me now? Tam, are you there with me? Or is it Roseanne? Roseanne. Hi, Roseanne. Good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon.
Yes. Hi, Roseanne. Well, welcome. Welcome to the Marcia Week show. It's a real pleasure having you here today. Which island are you calling from?
Barbados.
You're in Barbados, as I am. Well, today we're looking at the seemingly introduction of this new sex education curriculum, where there is a real push on transgender education to be included within our education curriculum, and we can feel the pressure as parents. We're watching what's happening in North America, and we're concerned. What are your thoughts about that?
My thoughts is basically a bunch of what you were looking for pedophiles and
Mm-hmm.
that in a position with money and access to getting things done, putting certain things in place to get to do and encourage what they're like. That's basically how I see it in a whole
Mm.
nutshell. Because rightfully nobody in their right mind will not regulate certain laws that are being made,
Mm-hmm.
especially pertaining to children. And
Mm.
I just say as total madness
Yeah.
in my book.
So, as a parent, are you a parent, Rosalie?
I'm a mother of five and a grandmother of five.
Wow. Okay. Congratulations. Being a
Thank
parent
you.
is a real honor. And so you are saying as a parent that you're living in Barbados, and this is not something that you would support at all.
Never. This is
Never. Mhm.
this is the question is pertaining to I want to make sure I answer you rightly because I just got the link and I came on. So
Mhm. We're
right,
talking
so
about we're talking about the pressure to include transgender education within our curriculum, and the pushing of this over sexualized curriculum to our children
okay.
outside of parental guidance or consent or no parental rights, etc.
The no parental rights I don't agree with because if not for parents that want got the children, so I don't see what is the sense of somebody getting out there to be a parent or to get children and then do not have the control to tell the child A, B, or C, left, right or wrong.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
And the thing is, they want to put the rights to government, or basically that's what it's going to come down to, and the law to decide what is right for your child and what is not right for your child. When in
mm-hmm.
truth, it ain't nothing better than a parent because nobody outside a child's forum is not going to love that child the way like a parent or family member would. And
Mm-hmm.
to put those rights in entities control, that is not I don't know what it's about.
Yeah.
That is
It's,
out of that is way out. Because if I have to correct my child, I'm gonna correct my child with love, with
mm-hmm,
respect. You understand me looking for right and looking for
mm-hmm,
the best for my child. When
mm-hmm.
an entity outside trying to correct my child, those are not the things that are going to be in perspective for them.
Right. Understand. Well, thank you so much for your contribution as a mother and grandmother. And you're saying absolutely not. Absolutely not. So Roseanne is saying no, not at all. Okay. So Roseanne, thank you for coming in. I'm just going to ask you to kindly exit the studio because there are others that are trying to come in. Okay. Thank you so
Okay,
much. That was Roseanne from Barbados. She's a mother and grandmother, and saying that there is no way that she is going to allow, sit by and just allow it to happen. Tommy Mohammed is saying, why should they push this down children's throat? Which I think is the same thing that everybody is saying. That adults are free, as Reverend Kwame was saying at the start of the show, to do what they want to do. We can't force people to make decisions for themselves. If you're an adult and it's legal, then they're free to do that. Some people say that, well, they're marching in Barbados. Well, it's their right. They are a legitimate group, and it's their right to march. We can't stop them from marching. And we should treat them with respect. There should be no discrimination against them. What we are saying is that when it comes on to children, that the children must be allowed to be children and not to be over sexualized. and not to be taught transgender education. I believe that's what people are saying. There are people in the studio, but I can't add them because their devices are not connected. So if you're listening to me, Natalie, we want to hear from you. Favored, Simple, and Brother Ford, and somebody just has SH. If that's you, you have to leave the studio, connect your device, right? And then then I can add you to the conversation. All right. Those of you who are watching, I'm going to ask you to share. Please share. I want to hear more from Mr. Dean Squires and Reverend Kwame. And I'm going to add them back to the studio because Reverend Kwame started to talk to us about hormones and how some of it could be what we're eating and so on. I need you to share this live, guys. Come on, Caribbean, share up the live. We need to have more people watching this and listening to this than what we have. This is something that we're coming up against, and we've got to band together. So I'm happy to have my Trini brother on. So Reverend Kwame, can you continue what you were saying to us about these hormones, please?
Sure. I would be very, very happy to. I'm reading verbatim from an NIH government website, and I'm quoting an article in relation to atrazine, as I mentioned before. The present study demonstrates the reproductive consequences of atrazine exposure in adult amphibians. Atrazine-exposed males were both demasculinized, chemically castrated, and completely feminized as an adult. The scientist that brought this to our attention in Tyrone Hayes was hounded and was silenced for indicating that a very popular herbicide, which is now finding its way into, guess what, our water supply in many municipalities across the world because of the ubiquitous nature of atrazine, people are drinking it, and there is a chemical castration going on. We have been long studying the effects of plastics and petrochemicals in our environment, which is absolutely based on the science, causing, again, emasculating properties by way of inducing and promoting female sex hormones to be produced within the system. So we have the smoking gun that lets us know that we are working in an environment which is not altogether one that is clear and transparent. There are chemical processes at work on the one hand, but that's not enough. On the other hand, there's a propaganda machine clearly within Hollywood to normalize and to promote a certain agenda. And then beyond that, there is also an opportunity now through the school system. I want to bring reference to something that I saw with my own two eyes in terms of a drag show that was being done in the US of A in a what we will call preparatory school environment, nursery school environment. That's 3-year-olds to 5-year-olds. They were grown men dressed in drag, twerking their hinder parts, to use a more gentler euphemistic term, and busting splits in front of 3 to 5-year-olds in the name of somehow comprehensive sexual education. If a heterosexual female were to come into a school and engage in that type of behavior, that person would have been arrested for lewd and indecent behavior. If a man were to do that in a female school, he would be arrested for lewd and indecent behavior. He'd be called a pedophile, he'd be jailed, and not only would he not be able to enter that school again, but as a pedophile and as someone who is quote unquote a groomer engaging in these lewd and suggestive acts, he would not be able to enter any premises or public park where there are children there in the public. And so the things that heterosexual males and females can't do within the normal course of life. We are giving license to a cultural minority whom I love and respect for their right to be who they are. But when you bring that agenda into an environment where there are people who are opposed to it, and you are now forcing that agenda down their throats, no pun intended, and we find that people are being confused by way of this propagandization, by way of this overt sexual stimulation. We can have in that environment children in their impressionable years, 0 to 5 are the most impressionable years in life, reading It's All Normal, reading The Night Before Pride, and these books that have already been published and are circulating in American schools. These impressionable minds can take on thoughts, feelings, and activities, which they can then later on regret. But when they can be chemically castrated and their sexual organs change and remove, in some states they're trying to push it even without their parental consent. So you send your child to school a male and they come back a female without your consent. That is
Yeah.
insanity on steroids, and no heterosexual community could get away with that kind of aggressive, forceful approach on an LGBTQ community. So the reverse should be equally repugnant and abhorrent, is my view and point, respectfully.
Well, thank you so much, and you've ably made that point, and someone is agreeing with you. Andrea Critchlow is saying that the foods and plastic containers are lined with estrogen and other things. She's saying the Reverend is correct, and so we're seeing a lot of these kinds of things happening, and the changes in hormones and so on. But I know this is the Dean Squires that I know. Dean works with young people in a sports program, and I don't know why I'm forgetting the name of the sports program. Is this the same Dean Squires from Barbados who works in that sports program?
Yes, please, correct.
Okay, just give me the name of it again. Let's plug that name.
Combined Faith Christian Sports Evangelism Ministry.
Combined
Yeah,
Faith.
Combined Faith. Yeah.
Combined Faith. Now, Combined Faith does a lot of work in the schools in Barbados. And I know you are aware, you do sports in the schools, but I know you're very aware of what's happening with our young people within the school setting. And someone could easily say, but you know, Mrs. Squires, look at how sexualized the children are. You know, introducing this wouldn't be nothing extra, because the children themselves are already over sexualized. You know what? Why? You know, in fact, some of them are saying, "Oh, we're trying to help them to show them how to do it properly. We're teaching them how to masturbate, and we're teaching them, you know, anal sex, and we're teaching them to have sex in the proper way from the age of 10, and sometimes younger." What are your thoughts about that?
I'm not sure the exact motive behind it or the desired outcome, because I'm not in contact with the persons who are really originating or pushing this. But from my end, or from my vantage point, even seeing what children already are battling with and grappling with and trying to figure out, to then force or push this now from a whole, like a general perspective, now opens up the door for so many things that these children's young minds are really not prepared for or to deal with. And what would usually be a one-off something, then you have not only peer pressure in terms of peer pressure from teammates in the context of sports or peers, but then you even having adult pressure on children. And usually the adults are seen as the source of guidance. I'm tempted to say wisdom, but I'm not sure if wisdom would apply in this context. So usually, our youngsters, our children, would do things that they themselves know are not right, and they will hide away and do them because they know they will not get the backing from any adults. Now, when you have things being pushed on them by adults, it moves it into another realm whereby we say that they have backing or they have forward and they have basically adult approval or encouragement to go in directions that adults themselves are still trying to figure out how to deal with. Furthermore, children.
That's a very, very powerful comment that you're saying now, that the children now get forward. That's what we would say in Jamaica. And I think that's throughout the Caribbean, we use that term now, where they get a stamp of approval on things that they know that in themselves, they know that it's wrong. But now we're now it's no part of the curriculum. You can, masturbation, and we're going to show you how to do it, and all of these kinds of things will now be part of the curriculum. Oh my goodness, can you imagine that? Well, I'm seeing Harry. Harry, welcome. Harry is in the studio. Good afternoon, Harry. What are your thoughts on this topic of transgenderism being taught in education curriculum throughout the region? What are your thoughts about that? Are you still there, Harry? Harry isn't there anymore. No, Harry. I think he dropped out. Natalie and Favored and Mike. Natalie, Favored, and Mike, I want to hear from you. So you will need to leave and connect your devices so that you will be able to speak. So that's your microphone and your camera, so that I can add you to the stream. Unless you do that, I'm not going to be able to add you. Those of you who are watching, I'm going to ask you to share. We should have way more persons watching this, right? Okay, so Harry asked a question. Harry is asking, should we push homeschooling then, and can it be done as regular as possible, so that it's affordable? That's a good point. Harry's back. Let me see. Harry, you're asking about homeschooling.
Yes. You got me now?
Yes. Okay. Hi. How are you doing?
Okay, I'm great. I'm great. I am. This is very alarming and concerning. I know I may have shared with you another way, Miss Marcia, the video I saw just the other day about where some of the stores are now even promoting this thing to babies, all the little onesies that
Oh,
babies
you're
wear,
from
the
the Virgin
newborn.
Islands. You're from the Virgin Islands.
Yes,
The
yes,
U.S.
yes.
Virgin Islands. Yes, welcome. So we have somebody from Trinidad, from Barbados, and the U.S. Virgin Islands. And you're concerned there. What's happening in the U.S. Virgin Islands? Is it now part of your curriculum, or is it that they are passing everything into law as they're doing in Barbados? What's happening there?
No, we have a soft launch, if you will. This is looking like a soft launch. And so we have to keep our eye expressly on the Board of Education, because that's where spurs on our whatever curriculum comes into our schools. So we have to keep our eye there as to what they will accept. There was once recently a parent whose child in an elementary school, you're looking at maybe a third grader or so, not that's about a 7-year-old child that did not want to wear the skirts, because we wear uniforms, did not want to wear the school skirt, and told her mother, I don't want to go to school if I have to wear a skirt. I want to wear pants. Okay. If you all know anything about the Dwayne Wade situation, which is in America, Dwayne Wade is married to Gabrielle Union, and his child wants to be transgender. His son dresses like a girl. So this is a situation here where, similar to that, the child told the parent they don't want to go to school dressing in a skirt. They want to wear pants, and the mother made a big old thing about it, and it really created a real debacle, so that the Board of Education decided they have to, sort of invent or reinvent the policy of dress code. Okay, you want to be a boy and wear a skirt, you can. You want to be a boy and wear a girl and wear pants, you can. You know, so it's like a soft launch in our area, and we have to keep our eye on it, because yeah, we've always had tomboys. I myself wore pants to school at some point, but certainly was always the ones that look very feminine. You understand? Those pants were the style that look very feminine. You could tell a woman pants from a man pants. All right. Now the girls want to wear pants that look like they're boys. There's sometimes their hairs are short too, and so it's a soft launch going on over here, and we're watching it. As you may know, in the United States, June 1st is the mark of that nastiness. As I'd like to listen to Dr. Umar Johnson. I encourage you guys to listen to him. He pushes back on this agenda very much. He encourages homeschooling or charter schools to get our children away from the system. All right. He encourages communities to get together because, you know, a lot of communities have people who aren't employed anyway. So they're home, they're struggling, and he encourages communities to take these children that, you know, their parents stand for something and want to then school them in their own homes. All right. And basically they're not, you know, seeking payment because in other words, they weren't being paid anyway, but they of course will take donations and stuff like that, you know, to make their life, you know, able to carry on. So it's not like it's almost like it's for free. You know, the old concept we used to had when the fathers go to work, the parents stay home, the mothers stay home and take care of the children. So it's not always about money. It's not always about money. We need to get to the mindset of, look, if hell bros, you know, coming at us, we're going to have to get in a corner and money or no money, payment or no payment, take care of these babies. All right. I just told you that the stores are selling things for newborns with all the rainbow stuff. And according to Dr. Umar Johnson, that's called the rainbow mafia. The rainbow mafia is out there. And so when the gentleman just said that he doesn't know, he can't comment on something because he doesn't know who's the ones behind it, it's imperative that we find out, yes, indeed, who's the ones behind it and have a conversation with those persons in our community. So, of course, we're looking to have discussions with the Board of Education and so forth, the very chairman and so forth, the very chair, you know, of these organizations, because we want to know, hey, what is your mindset? Where's your tendency going? Where's your propensity, you know, to this agenda? Because we know the agenda is out there. We've had it before. We've had introduction of, yes, school books might change, but it didn't come because the community started to speak up. And so they put it back down under the burner. But we believe that if we don't keep our foot on it, yes, they're going to light that fire here too.
So you're saying in the U.S. Virgin Island, they've done a soft launch of this whole thing. It's happening
Yes,
in the Virgin Islands. And I know that, I mean, right now, everybody's watching because they know that our governments have taken money from these, you know, these big entities, and here they are. They're now telling us what it is that that we are to do. And we want to say for sure that this, I know for sure, this show is not promoting any discrimination against the LGBT community at all.
Right, exactly.
There are people within the LGBT community who are against the teaching of children.
Yes, I have my position on that.
Yeah,
Here's my position on that. Wait until the child can make its own decision. Stop pushing this thing out there. We don't even need to have a conversation on this. It shouldn't even be a conversation. Wait till the child can make their own decision. The parent that wants to do that, have the child in the little tutus and so forth, you do that in your own time, your own home, your own, you know, but you don't let it, you don't make it a deal, a big deal that it must be done on school campuses. But let the child grow. Let the child become whatever that age is that you believe, because, you know, and everybody believe what the government says, that, oh, a child is 18. I mean, I'm adult when they're 18 or even 21, you know? Then everybody backfall for that. So if in your home you want to believe a child is a big old man when they're 18, fine. But wait till they get an age now.
Yeah.
Why you having this thing, you know, being a big thing? Wait until the child can grow. So now this baby comes and you're going to put them in this onesie with this beautiful rainbow mafia insignia. Wait till the child can grow. How do you know the child will appreciate that? How do you know the child even, you know, if they could talk, how would you know that child even appreciates mommy and daddy doing that to them?
Okay. So
you know, let the child be able
to. You're saying no discrimination. You're not against any community or anyone. It is just to leave the children alone. Well, I see. Thank you so much for joining us. I see Mr. Steve Moore on, and he is logging on from the UK. I know he's a Bajan living in the UK. And Steve, welcome. And I'm wondering if you knew that the University of the West Indies is now saying that the lecturers will need to address the students by the gender they choose. And I want to hear your thoughts about that. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Marcia. Let me choose my gender first. I am a car today. All right, so I've proved my gender. Now that's out the way. Let me go all the way back into history, right? Remember, they taught us our history in school, or tell us what they think we should know about the slave trade and so on. And then they start bringing it forward now to the destruction of the getting the father out of the house. Well, this is their final agenda to get at the children, because, as I say, this is not about LGBTQ. This is about purely pedophilia. All right. This is where it's going to. The LGBTQ, just like George Floyd, is stepping into that final phase. All right. They use George Floyd, they use Black Lives Matter, they use all of them sort of things to bring this agenda to the forefront. And we got a whole load of I gotta call them black people in the Caribbean calling themselves presidents and prime ministers that of course forgot their history, and it's too bad happy to destroy the Caribbean and re-enslave their people because they seem to think that massa is right. All right, and this is where that it may not impact us now, this agenda, but it will impact the younger generation in the future. This is where everything is heading. And unless we stop this now, no matter what, and get rid of them so-called corrupt leaders, they're calling themselves, out of office, our children is in a bad way, honestly. I'm not going to discriminate against any person. You know, I'm very, very tolerant to them people. All right. But at the same time, when I hear people, when I hear this sort of language, I'm telling myself opposite to what they're trying to tell me. All right. And that's the way I've been teaching my son, because I got a 22-year-old and I got a 12-year-old. And I'm always teaching him opposite. It's here in the UK as well, you know. Don't think it's not. It's here. I've already tell the school my position on that. All right. And I want every person in the Caribbean either to take the children out of this government indoctrination camps, or tell them straight up, you're not having none of it. And it's as simple as that.
Yeah. So you're saying, and I like the way the conversation is moving, because both you and the lady from the U.S. Virgin Island, you're providing solutions. Excuse me. And you're saying to get rid of the leaders, because, you know, we do a lot of talking. But we need to figure out what's the action. Let me just jump from you there, Steve, to back to Mr. Squires. Mr. Squires works with children in the school system. And Mrs. Squires, did you read the Child Protection Act or even any portions of it in Barbados?
Not properly, just a glance over.
Just a glance over. Well, excuse me. I had a program last week, and I had Felicia DeJohn on, and we were able to go through it step by step and piece by piece. And you know, I've read through it, and of a truth, it doesn't enhance. Here I have on the on my screen, I call him Humphrey Dumpty. Is what I call him, because of this whole thing here is a failure. It's a failure. This Humphrey Dumpty, you know, he fall off the wall. This is a complete failure, because he's saying that the parental rights are already enhanced and not eroded under the Child Protection Bill. And there is nothing in there. They have the word parental rights is in there, but it comes right behind it is with almost like a lash on the hand for the parent, the entire bill. You know, it's really against the parents. So, what are your views about parental rights, and how important is it in this kind of setting, Dean?
Yeah, in terms of reading what was actually said, I find that the language is one, at least for me, where I would have to read over and over a couple of times to truly, well, to at least comprehend what I think is being said.
Mm-hmm.
However, from the responses, it, anytime you take away, anytime you move the parent out of the picture, you're asking for some serious trouble. Also, the couple of years ago, back when we were preparing to basically upgrade our approach in terms of sports coaching,
Mm-hmm.
and we were involved in some sessions, and the sessions were saying that research was saying that I can't remember if the exact age was 21 or 25, but it was in the 20s. The research was claiming that even up to that age, the parts of the brain in people that is foremost at use when it comes to decision making is not fully developed then. And what we were getting into that research is looking to perform help with youngsters getting into becoming elite athletes or high profile athletes. And therefore, part of being a high profile athlete is usually using decision making. You can get strength similar to others. You can get, certain physical characteristics, speed and such like, but your decision making is what usually separates you from the others. So in that research, with that claim is like, whoa, that has serious implications for us here because if your the decision making part of the brain, even when you reach like early 20s, I don't want to quote the exact age, but it did involve 20s, whether it's 21 or 25, I'm not sure. Then
Mm-hmm.
now to hear this in relation to our children, whether you look at teenagers or primary school, is like you
Mm-hmm.
asking them now, research says that their decision making ability haven't fully matured, but
Yes.
then you're feeding them with some serious heavy information and then asking them to lead the decision making. And if I'm understanding correct, then parents are to kind of just stay out of it, because if
Mm-hmm.
you try to help with the guidance, it could be seen as some form of well, I don't know how you phrase it as abuse, but I
Yes.
didn't read the actual document myself, so I'm not sure if that was actually
Well,
being
there's
said in the
some
document.
heavy
Yeah,
fines.
yeah.
We're going to bring it back to the rest of the Caribbean, but Barbados, we're just focusing a little bit on Barbados here, guys, because Barbados seem to be, for whatever reason, at the tip, we're pushing this envelope. We're the ones pushing this thing. I mean, even in the nutrition policy that was established by the government, or they're seeking to establish it, there is a little section in there that talks about child-friendly healthcare facilities, and I went researching what that's all about. And they have implemented this in places in Europe, right? And they're saying these guidelines, they place children's rights, needs, and resources at the center of healthcare activities, taking into account children's opinions and evolving capacities, creating alignment and synergies between intervention, organization, and individuals. And it's crucial to an efficient child-centered healthcare. Now, I'm reading this and I'm saying, in light of what you have just said, Mr. Squires, where the children's brain, they take a little time to develop in terms of decision making. Are we now in these child-friendly healthcare facilities, like, for example, that the protection, the nutrition policy is seeking to establish here in Barbados? Now, the children's rights seem to going to be what is at the forefront based on what they're doing here in Europe, because Europe has a child-friendly healthcare system, which is based on the WHO standards, because they're trying to make everything, follow this international standard. Okay. And they said, in a nutshell, the goal of the child-friendly healthcare approach is to embed children's rights in healthcare system. Okay, this is what the children's rights. You mean like a 10-year-old and a 5-year-old must have rights to their health care? What are they talking about? And it makes me, this kind of thing, Reverend Kwame, it spells trouble. It seems to me that we are gearing up ourselves. So when a child says, I want my penis cut off because I feel like a girl, at this child-friendly healthcare center, it will be fine, because we have to take into consideration the opinion of the children. That's what what I'm understanding from this. And I don't know if Reverend Kwame knows, but this is in a document that is prepared as a new nutrition policy for the children of Barbados. Were you aware of that, Reverend Kwame?
I was not aware that it has come home to the Caribbean at such an advanced stage. It seems as if Barbados is ahead of the pack. Some people would be perhaps championing that as a win, but many would certainly be seeing that for what it is. I want to make a couple of statements based on the premise you just set up there. Uh, One, and thank you for that statement, my brother, who deals with children within the sporting arena. I want to touch on the sporting arena while referring and answering to your question. With regards to the issue of athletics, we are seeing males who are stronger and faster. People talk about men and women being equal. We are not equal. We are complementary, which is to say that men bring certain things to the table that are different to women, and women bring things to the table that are different to men. Together, we come together to form a wonderful complement, and we are able to supplement each other in wonderful ways, but we are not equal. When we look at the Olympics, when we look at world championships, when we look at mixed martial arts, I'm a martial artist, a 4th-degree black belt, sorry, 1st-degree black belt. My father's a 4th-degree black belt. So when you place a man in an MMA ring who has done some surgeries, aesthetic surgeries, to remove certain things, or is perhaps using certain hormone blockers, and you put him in the room with and in the ring with a woman, and in the course of that battle, pound for pound, the man, because of the density of his muscles, because of the density of his bones, etc., when he strikes that blow and cracks the jaw, fractures the jaw of the woman, and then wins the prize for being the female MMA champion, even though he is male, but based on certain aesthetic transitional treatments and hormones, gets to qualify as a female. That is not only unfortunate, but that is unfair to women who've been working very hard to play, to win, to compete within their gender class, within their weight class. The same thing is happening within the swimming world, where the number one athlete in the swimming world among women in certain colleges and schools in the US is a transgender individual, not an actual female, but a person who has gone through again certain hormone blockers, etc., even though he still has his phallus intact, and gets to participate in these female competitions and win over these naturally born girls and women. And I'm saying that is unfair. That is certainly not the way to go. My proposal would be, if you want to do that, if you have the blessing of your parents, and or perhaps you're an adult and you want to go in that direction, that's fine. Why not have an MMA for transgender people exclusively? So that way you fight among yourselves, you swim among yourselves, you run among yourselves. But men transitioning to women based on chemical things aesthetically does not mean that you are in actuality a female. Your muscle, your and your bones, and the power that is generated from you is going to be, ceteris paribus, all factors being constant and consistent, superior to that of the female athletes. And so we live in a world where we have to somehow, in the name of political correctness, and I know that this happens at the lowest levels and now even at the highest levels of politics, where we have to ignore facts ignore reality, ignore what is facing us, and pretend that we are not seeing it in the name of going along to get along. I want to
That's
close by saying, that with regards to my position on the community, I think there are beautiful brothers and sisters who belong to that community and association. I have friends, I have family among them. I love them dearly. The however is their right to exercise their fundamental freedoms of choice should not trump that of parents' rights over their children, sorry, or their child, singular, and certainly with regards to the way forward, rather than engaging in knee-jerk reactions to what's happening at the World Health Organization, within the UN apparatus generally, and certainly in the United States of America and other leading developed worlds. We must take into consideration the facts. And in Western Europe, they are pulling back. While we are pushing towards transgenderism, we know that in Sweden and in elsewhere, where they have been practicing and engaging these things for a number of years, they were avant-garde. They are now repealing. They are now, based on the statistics, based on suicide rates, based on other forms of mental ill health, psychological ill health, based on STDs, STIs, based on a number of adverse statistics. They are saying we went in the wrong direction. It's time to repeal. But they are not getting a voice. Simultaneously, gays against groomers, gay men and women, saying, listen, this is an adult choice. Stop targeting the children. Let me read them actually verbatim as I close.
Yeah.
Quoting gays against groomers as I close, as I land, telling a child they need to transition to feel happy is literally teaching them to hate themselves. That is evil. That is wrong. That is something everyone should be against. No child is born in the wrong body, and adults should be teaching them that they are perfect exactly as they are. End quote. Gays against groomers. You can find it on Twitter. So we have voices who are saying within that community that this is inappropriate, this is wrong. Let children be children and let adults be adults. Don't encroach on heterosexual rights to advance LGBTQ agendas. Let the chips fall where they may when people are old enough, mature enough to make life-altering, irreplaceable, irreversible decisions.
Thank you so much, Reverend. And I'm seeing a comment here. We only have another 15 minutes. A comment here saying, Kazoya Pitt, good afternoon. The philosophy underlying what is being pushed by the foreign curricula. Okay, sorry. Ooh, it went. Okay. She says, good afternoon. The philosophy underlying what is being pushed by the foreign curricula seems to blur the lines of childhood. What is childhood and how should children relate to sex? The philosophy underlying it seems different to what most Caribbean people believe, at least concerning exposing children to sexual decision making. I think that's the crux of the matter. She also said, in writing the Child Protection Bill, was there consultation with groups such as guidance counselors associations, PTA bodies, teacher associations, the people who know the issues and deal with the children constantly? Or was it just decided that we must at all costs comply with the philosophies of the UN and other international bodies? Thank you, Kazoya. Andrew Critchlow says, who then is expected to financial support and take care of these children the bill is referring to? So this is concerning Barbados at the moment, because Barbados, for whatever reason, seems to be out there at the front, leading on this charge. We as parents will have to be responsible for children we can't control or speak to. Madness, because the Child Protection Bill seems to, which we are asking for clarity on it, to be taking away the rights of the parents. That's the appearance of it to us. and we are waiting on my friend, and I call him, Humphrey Dumpty, to come and to explain to the people, because he says that it's in the parental rights, it's enhanced in the bill, and the parents are saying we don't see it. So Mr. Humphrey Dumpty needs to let us know exactly where in the bill this is. I want to move this conversation along, and I have in the guest in our studio the Reverend from Trinidad. We have Steve, who is in the UK, Dean from Barbados, and my lovely friend, I'm forgetting her name, from US Virgin Islands. I want to go to Steve. Steve, I want to ask you, what are the next steps? We only have a couple minutes. I want to ask everybody the same question. So I want to think about the answer, because we only have a few minutes. What should be the next steps for people who live in Barbados, people in the region? What do we do? We have these talk shows. We've been talking. What should we do? What are some practical steps that we should take concerning this particular issue? Steve.
Right. And now, listening before, 1 minute, Marcia, listening before, the only word that they didn't put in that bill was Gillet competence. And Gillet competence is what is the word that they use over here to say that children can make their own decisions, even to take the job. Right. Now, from there, as far as the next steps that you can do, wow. There's no courts in Barbados. If there was courts and the justice system was working, you can take them to court. There's no courts. There's no constitution. There's no lawyers that's going to help the parent, unfortunately. So I don't want to get on your program to say, well, this and that and third, that is what you should do, but people need to come together. People need to unify against this, because it gives the government, that bill gives the government power to come into your house to remove your child. All right? The thing about it is, Barbados, they've been passing a lot of laws with headlines, but nothing in the background to tell you what it really means. And they can interpret it.
Just don't want to cut you, but because of time. So you're saying, because we want to stick to the next steps. So you're saying that you're suggesting that we come together regionally, and come together within our countries to fight this. And you're believing that if we come together, that we can fight it. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, we need a whole regionally push, a whole Caribbean push, because we can't exclude none of the Caribbean countries and look at only ourselves and Barbados and only ourselves. No, we need people from other countries in the Caribbean to come together to help Barbados, and Barbados to help these countries. That's the only solution right now. That's the
unity. Yeah. Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Steve, for your comments. Mr. Squires, Dean Squires, who works with young people in Combined Faith. What should be the next steps? We're talking, and we've been nervous watching what's going on. What should we do? What are some practical things that we need to do right
now? Whatever we do, for one, the whole approach has to be regional, because any one country just trying to figure it out on their own, and all the other countries within our Caribbean region goes in a certain direction, then you can see that really limits the power or the say that we would have, even in terms of what we are dealing with. So it has to be a regional approach. For one, for me personally, I would push that definitely we need to have people praying, because what we are fighting with or dealing with is definitely not something just physical, but spiritual as well. Along with the praying, though, don't just start praying, but within the resources we have, not only locally, but regionally, if we have persons who understand certain language and can read between the lines and see what's really going on, and then put forward our case in a way that is fitting to the forums that we will need to go into and address matters. But then on top of it, there needs to be a level of accountability to our leaders, our governmental leaders within our respective countries. And last but not least, than having what we call soldiers on the ground, helping our children to navigate what's really happening on the ground, because that's who's really going to be impacted. Our children, when we having our meetings and our discussions, if persons are still pushing the agenda on the ground, our children will still be in a vulnerable situation. So we need to have persons who can really help our children in these times.
So you're agreeing with Steve, unity, you have a three-prong approach, I believe, unity, and you're also saying to hold our leaders accountable. So your unity is saying is you need regional unity on this particular issue, holding our leaders accountable and having soldiers on the ground to help the children as whatever is happening, to be there to assist them. Let me go to my sister from the U.S. Virgin Islands. Can you just, in a nutshell, just reiterate what you had said earlier about the next steps for the region?
Yes, I had actually said about it similar to just get together with your own families and so forth and make it known, have a family discussion, neighborhood discussion, and so forth, and have a watch on this. But the first thing I need is a copy of this darn bill you all have in Barbados, because I sure as hell don't want to see that kind of language creeping up in here under our nose and, behind our backs. So we would like a copy of that legislation, if you will. And also, let's bear in mind that we need to have conversations with these people pushing this thing. Again, I say, when a pirate comes into your land, you better find a way to make connection to that pirate. If you're going to knock him out from under your feet or talk to his face, you decide. But you need to know and meet that person, because you want him to know, hey, our customs, ways, laws, mores, the way we are, our fabric of life does not entertain this. And if you can't respect it, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. But you need to do that. Now, I want to point out that we have to understand that they mean business, because their letters in their alphabet, LGBTQ, whatever, does not include H. Okay? They never talk about heterosexual, so I know for sure then they can't say, we busy saying that we don't hate them, which is true. We don't come against their lifestyle. We're busy saying that, but they're not busy saying they don't mind ours, because H is not included in there. There's no regard for us. So you need to
Right.
understand the nature of the beast you're against. Okay, that person against you, and I need a copy of that bill. That's my first moves, so that I could say I'd like to meet with these people who have this agenda when they
Yeah.
come into my land, and I
And, so,
suggest you all do the
and I
same.
know you also suggested homeschooling, which Andrea Critchlow is saying to squash this bill, introduce a better curriculum, if not homeschool your children or form a homeschool group to teach our children. I, for one, believe that they need to squash this bill and come with something better. I believe that I agree with you, Andrea, that we need to have, there needs to be something about child protection. It's very, very important. You need to have a bill about child protection, but not in the form that it is. I think that there are so many issues with this bill. The issue is pervasive in the bill. It's all over the bill. It's the way the bill was written. It's the spirit in which the bill was written. They need to tear it up. They need to throw it away. They need to use it as toilet paper. They need to discard it and come with something new. Trash that one. Trash it. Go. Don't. I was first saying go to the drawing board. No. Trash it. Start over and let us come with something brand new. Use what was there before. We had something there before. Make a few amendments to that. Okay, and don't come with this thing that you're coming now trying to put wool over our eyes. The bill is nothing more that they need to use it for toilet paper. It's filthy. It's not. We should never. That should not be introduced. Mash it up, throw it away. But let me get to Mr. The Reverend. Reverend, I'm going to give you. Yes, can you go ahead and tell us what should be the next step for us as a region?
Well, firstly, let me say to my colleagues here and your gracious self that all of the recommendations thus far are quite sound and necessary. Let me just add some detail. On a social level, yes, we need to organize, but we also need to centralize. Organizing as individual groups within nations is fine, but having a collective voice that can speak for and on our behalf at the regional level is absolutely imperative. With regards to the whole issue of all things related to law, policy, governance, we need to take an approach to it that is consistent to what was done concerning cannabis in the region. CARICOM said, listen, the entire world is going in the area of decriminalization and legalization. We need to study this matter. We need to host public consultations in all of the various nations that make up CARICOM, and then coming out of wide sweeping, as it were, consultations, we need to set up and fund and finance a commission to create, to draft bills and legislation that is consistent not only with international, in quotes, best practices, but rather what is consistent with the will of the people, with the culture of the people, with the spirituality of the people, with the decision of the people. So this is something that we have to study. This is something that requires wide consultation. I would even recommend some referendums be engaged, such that beyond the talk shops that are had in consultations, we need to take these things to a vote. If they have a majority vote, well, que sera, sera. If it does not, then the people win and the people's voice can be heard. Last but not least, with regards to the way forward, if all other attempts have failed, we would have to be prepared as a community to say, while we believe in living and let live, this approach to parenting, this approach to the LGBTQ question, this approach to grooming minors, this approach to allowing for what they call gender care, which is really forced medical treatments on people too young to drive a car, too young to make any other decision in the medical fraternity. They are too young to do it except for this one. And so we will have to make a determination. Will we then create the kind of communities where we are self-sufficient and are able to provide the schooling, provide the food, provide the shelter, provide the science, provide the technology, where we can do for ourselves, creating those kinds of close-knit communities where we choose what happens within those gates, behind those doors, within those corridors, by way of a self-determination to stick to our principles. Because of the entire society and its secularization goes in that direction, we're going to have to make some tough decisions in terms of what we do with our families and what we do with our communities. But that's a question certainly for another day. I land.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And I like to end on a positive note where we're trying to find solutions, and we are not just just being a talk shop. And on that note, I want to invite everybody who's watching, whether you're watching the live currently or in when it's recorded, or later on, you're watching the recording. I'm sorry. I'm going to ask you if you're interested in attending a meeting tomorrow. We're putting together a what next meeting. What is the next step? A what's next meeting, and seeking to do something within Barbados, and hopefully that something can be done in Trinidad as well. And so tomorrow evening, guys, 7:30, if you call this number on the screen or you WhatsApp this number on the screen, you will get a Zoom link that you can come on, and we are going to take this to a whole nother level. All right, we coming together as Caribbean people. We got our phones. Listen, we're going to take charge of our lives. We're taking charge of our destiny. We're not going to leave our destiny and everything in the hands of government officials. We are taking charge of our own children, of our destiny, of our lives. We are determined there's purpose to our lives, and we are taking charge. And so we're going to come together on Zoom, and let it be from Virgin Islands, Barbados, Trinidad, Jamaica. Send this number out. When you get the Zoom link, send it out. We can hold the people on there, and let's begin to come together as a region and take charge. Take charge, Caribbean. Caribbean, let us take charge. Take charge of this. Every government official that is in the Caribbean is put there by the people of the Caribbean. Andrew Holness, you're put there by Jamaicans. Mia Motley, you're put there by Bajans. Okay? The one in Rowley, you are put there by Trinis. Okay? We put you there. Those in the Bahamas, Cranston Brown or whatever, I can't remember the first name, Mr. Brown in Antigua. We put you there. We put you there. And so let the Caribbean come together and tell the leaders what is going to happen. It is simple. It is simple. We will tell you what is going to happen because we put you there. You are not a leader. If we do not give you the power to lead, you can't lead anything. Okay, so we're calling the Caribbean together on Thursday night. Take this number down, guys. Take this number down and let us come together. Yeah, let us come together and decide on our own fate. Okay, God bless you all and see you again. And listen out for me on the live, my Facebook live. I'm probably going to come on. We're going to come on that again. So listen out, and every time you see me on, you share, because listen, we are taking charge. We're taking charge. Okay. God bless you all. Bye-bye. Thank you all for coming on. God bless.